exciting. Well, hi everyone. It's nice to be with such a large group of people. So I teach here in the College of Business. I teach management classes, so maybe I'll have some of you someday, or I've had some of you before. And so one of the classes that I teach is a graduate class in personal organization and time management. And so Sage asked me to come kind of give you some tips and tricks and talk to you about some of that stuff. And I'm one of those weird people who actually likes this stuff a lot. So I'll try to give you some tips and tricks. We used to do this workshop in like January, and I said we can't do this workshop in January because nobody's stressed out or worried about anything in January. Everybody's coming out back from the holidays and they're like, you know, nothing. Yeah, those papers are due in April. I don't care about that stuff. But everybody's probably stressed out now, so hopefully this is good timing for this. So, anybody stressed out or ever been stressed out? Good. Hopefully this will work for you. So, ever had a lot of stuff to do and just felt overwhelmed, totally unmotivated, don't want to do this crap, don't care about it? Good? You know what I'm talking about? Great. So, have you ever had a lot of stuff on your mind, stressing you out, and then you make a list and you feel better? Anybody ever had that experience? Make a list, you feel better. Good. Why does that happen? Why do you feel better when you make a list? Somebody that raised your hand.
You're motivated.
You're motivated.
You have a check off.
Okay, good. Go.
You have a place to start? So
Good. We're motivated, we have a place to start. Was that what you were going to say?
Yeah,
Okay.
or you can see where you need to start.
Great. Okay, so all this stuff is true, right? So, here's the key. Here's why making a list makes you feel better. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a well-imagined thought and reality. Just remember that, okay? So when you think of something you need to do, oh, I need to go to X and get Y. Your brain makes a commitment to do that. Now your brain not only doesn't know the difference between ideas and reality, it also has no sense of time. So it doesn't understand past, present, and future the way that we do. So what does that mean? It means that when you make these commitments to do this or do that or whatever, even if you do so sort of subconsciously, oh yeah, I need to do that, right? Your brain thinks you need to be doing that all the time until it's done. So what? So, that's why you're stressed out. Because your brain says, oh, I agreed to do all these things, and I should be doing them all right now. I'll prove this to you. How many of you have a closet, a room, a garage, some space like that in your life that is a total wreck and desperately needs to be cleaned? Anybody? That should be like everybody, right? I mean, that's true for me too, okay? And I'm the one here telling you how to be organized. Okay, so, and every single time you walk by that closet or room or whatever, your brain says, why are we not cleaning the closet? It's still dirty. And it's beating you up and it's stressing you out because it doesn't understand why you're not stopping everything you're doing to clean the closet because you made a commitment sometime 20 years ago to clean the closet and it's still not clean. 20 years, that seems like a reasonable time period to not clean your closet, right? Okay. Alright, so what's the solution? Just be stressed out all the time? That's what most people do, right? That's not a good solution, right? That's not going to make you feel any better or get anything done. No, the key is to trick your brain. So remember when I asked if you felt better if you made a list? The reason you felt better is because the list told your brain, hey brain, you can relax, I got this under control, I've got a list. Right? You know where to start, you're motivated, you can see what you need to do, etc., etc. Thank you, you all did a perfect job, I will pay you later. Okay? Yes? Oh, okay. He's like, you can pay me now if you want. Okay. All right. So, your brain is now relaxed because it forgets all this stuff. And that's great. Of course, the next place it breaks down is you lose the list and you forget all the stuff that you need to do. And then, yeah, okay. All right. So, kidding. All right. So, if this is all true, and I don't really have enough time today to give you all the science to prove to you that this is true, so you'll just have to trust me here. And if you don't, well, the best students never quite believe their professors, okay? So, then, if this is true, then there are 3 keys to reducing your stress and managing your time and your commitments and all that stuff and getting more stuff done, which is what ideally we all want to do. Okay? So, 3 keys to effective productivity. Number 1, define the outcome. What are we trying to do? What's the goal? What's the objective? What does done look like? What does complete look like? Anybody play a sport in here? Either now or in the past? Or in the future, maybe? Okay. All right. So, if you play a sport, you ever try to play a version of your sport without knowing how to win? This usually results in people like throwing things, crying, leaving in anger and frustration. This is what happens anytime anybody plays Monopoly, right? A game of Monopoly never ends without someone crying and throwing money, fake money at people, right? Okay. All right, so define the goal. You have to know what the goal or the objective or the outcome or what we're trying to accomplish, what done looks like. You can't do something completely unless you know what done looks like. So that's number one. Second key, define the next action. What moves us closer to done? Notice this. Excuse me. Notice this on next action, right? It's the next action. So say there's 10 things that I need, 10 actions I need to take to get to done on something, right? Those 10 actions, I don't need to plan out all 10 of them because after I do the first 2, the whole world may change and maybe I don't even need to do this anymore, right? So don't overplan. Just enough. The next action, okay? So these 2 things, outcomes and actions, outcomes and actions. These are like, if you understand coding, these are like the zeros and ones of productivity, of personal organization. Define the outcome, define the action. So one of the problems here, who has a to-do list in here? Anybody have a to-do list? Okay. Next week everyone will have a to-do list because then all of a sudden you'll realize that there's only like 2 weeks left in the semester and you have a lot of papers due and a lot of exams to study. Ideally, right? Okay, so, and Mulvaney was just telling me how bad the grades were in her class, so I'm just kidding. Okay, all right, so if you have a to-do list, I'll tell you a little secret. Most people's to-do lists are still incomplete lists of still unclear stuff. Incomplete lists of still unclear stuff. They don't have everything on there, and they're not clear about what any of the stuff on there means. Most people's to-do lists say things like this. Sorry if you recognize yourself. Mom, cat, paper, exam, store. These are not effective reminders of anything, right? Mom, I assume you have one. You're here, right? Okay. Cat, perhaps you have one of those too. Okay. These are not really good reminders of anything, right? So there's a problem here. But before we get to the problem, now we're going to play, okay? So you got to play along a little bit. I should have told you that to begin with. Okay, so find a device or a piece of paper and a pen or whatever type of world you want to live in. You can get your phones out. I won't be offended, okay? Right? People that have taken classes from me, I don't care. If I'm not interesting enough, that's my problem, not yours. Okay? All right, good. So somewhere where you have some blank space, I want you to make a list of everything that's on your mind right now. All these people that raised your hand and said you were stressed out, dump it all out of your head right now. Write it down. If it's on some other list, fine, write it down again. Okay? So 2 minutes. And don't editorialize here. Don't go, oh, that's not that important. Just write it down, okay? Just write it down. Go through the exercise. Pause the video here. All right, you probably have more stuff. You can keep putting more stuff, but that's probably good for now. By the way, if you put things like, this guy's boring, I wonder if my grades was one of the bad ones Mulvaney was talking about, that's okay too, right? Just whatever's on your mind, okay? All right, good. Now take another minute or so and grab a couple of things that are on this list and go ahead and answer these questions. What's the outcome and what's the next action? The next physical, visible action. The next thing that's like, I'm going to pick up the phone and dial this number. I'm going to go to this store and pick this item up and pay for it. That's the next action, right? Okay, so do that for a couple of things. Practice the process. All right, so outcomes and actions, right? Now think about this for a second, right? Let's go back to our original thing. We said that most people's lists are still incomplete lists of unclear stuff, right? Okay? And people have all those things on them. So let's take, for example, mom, right? Let's say that you had mom on your list. So how would we go through the process of defining the outcome and the action? Let's make sure that you did it this way, right? So we would look at mom and we would say, mom. And I'm just going to pick somebody. What's your name? Hope? Great. Okay, so I'll say, Hope, mom is on your to-do list. Why? And she goes, well, mom's birthday's coming up. And I said, oh, good. Okay, great. So what are you going to do about mom's birthday? Well, I guess I need to get her a gift. Okay, great. So do you have any siblings? Okay, and Hope's, so what siblings do you have? A brother. Okay, so Hope says, well, before I get mom a gift, I guess I need to call my brother and see if he wants to go in on the gift with me, right? Great. So do you know how to get in touch with your brother?
Yeah.
Good. You have his phone number? Great. So she's like, great. So now we have a next action, right? We have an outcome and an action. What's the outcome? Gift for mom's birthday, right? What's the next action? Call, text brother, right? See how simple that was? How long did that take? Like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, right? Did it hurt? Okay, good. Sometimes it hurts when you have to think through these things, right? That's the one thing you have to do is think. That's painful for some people. But you don't have to think that much, and you don't have to think that hard. So, see, that was fairly easy. You got to do this on all the stuff, right? The problem is most people wait until it's like, holy cow, emergency, fire. I better do something about this now, or it's all going to fall apart. Paper due tomorrow. Paper due today. Right? I teach here, okay? And it's like, whoa, what's the outcome? What's the next action, right? That's very clear in those moments. See, crisis gives you a lot of clarity. But crisis also gives you a lot of stress, right? Paper due today is not a real good feeling, right? I know. I've been there. Okay? So, you can get out of that by saying, on the front end, what's the outcome and what's the next action, right? And you may still decide next action is wait until the day the paper's due and write it. That's fine. But I bet you won't be stressed, okay? All right. So there's a third key. The first two keys, outcome, action. Third key, we'll call it maps, okay? So a map gives you directions where to go, right? How to get to a destination, okay? And so we understand already that what the destination is, the outcome, and we understand the next action to take to get there. The problem is you only need certain maps at certain times, right? Let's say that you don't know how to get home from here. That would be kind of silly, but let's say that for a second that you don't, right? All you need really is a map of this general area, Beaumont and surrounding areas perhaps, right? A map of New York would not particularly be helpful to you to get home, right? Not unless you want to go really far out of your way and deal with snow, right? Okay, because it is still snowing there in April. Okay, so you just need a map of this area, right? The same thing is true for everything you do in your life, right? So you wrote down a bunch of stuff on your list, right? And some of those things are probably things that have to do with school and maybe need to be taken care of while you're here. But many of those things may need to be taken care of at work if you have a job, or at home, or at a grocery store or some other store where you may need to buy things, etc., right? So the key with maps is you only need to see the information that you can do something about. So there's a little more planning that has to take place on the front end, right? What's the outcome, what's the action, and when do I need to see this stuff? The best way to do this is to sort all these actions that you basically have little sub-to-do lists, right? Sort all these to-do lists, all these actions by the context where the action happens, right? So for example, I don't need to see a list of things that I can only do at home while I'm here. I may want to be home, right? But I'm here with you. Thank you. Okay. All right. So right? So a list of things that I need to do at home is not real useful to me right now. Unless I want to daydream and I'm bored, right? In which case, why am I here? Okay? I should go home and do those things. So I just need to see a list of things that I can only do here. The rest of the stuff get out of the way, right? This helps me make faster decisions. Because I'm moving fast. And you probably are too. Right? Okay. Good. So, you want to sort these things by context as best you can. You probably don't have a lot of contexts in your life, right? I don't either. There's like at work, at home, at the grocery store, at your boss, you know, maybe there's somebody you need to talk to about stuff. That's about it, right? I mean, there's not a lot of places that stuff happens. So you don't need a million of these sublists, you just need like 5 or 6. Okay, good? Makes sense? With me? Okay, good. All right. What's really nice is if you actually take a little time every week to look at this stuff. It doesn't take long, like 15, 20 minutes, right? And just kind of go, what's coming up? Right? Pull your calendar out. Hey, when's the next thing due? What's the next thing I need to get ready for? Right? And this stuff is simple stuff to do, but it gives you an incredible sense of sort of stress-free living. Okay? All right. So, let's recap some of this stuff and then let's talk about planning. So, what should you do to immediately and exponentially reduce your stress and increase your effectiveness? Here's a key. Master key to life. Write everything down. If we just determined 12 minutes ago, or something like that, that this is not very good at keeping track of everything because it doesn't understand that you shouldn't be doing it right now and can't tell the difference between whether you actually should be doing it or just imagined that you should be doing it, then maybe this is not the best place to keep track of stuff, right? So write everything down. At least put it in a device you can write digitally, right? That's what I do, right? Or write it down. Everything that pops into your mind, write it down. You can decide later if it's worth keeping or not. But it doesn't cost you anything to go ahead and get it out of your head and move on. Then you have a clear head. Don't have a thought twice, unless you like the thought. Then you can think about it all the time, if you want to. All right? Okay, good. All right. Then take a minute to figure out what 2 things again? What are the 2 things we need to figure out and clarify? Zeros and ones? Hello? Outcome and action. Good, thank you. Some people are awake. It's lunchtime, right? Okay. So this will hurt a little bit, but not that much. We talked about that, all right? If you do this long enough, it'll become a second nature habit. You'll do this without thinking. You'll be this great, super professional business person. You'll walk into meetings, people will be running at the mouth for 15 minutes in meetings saying nothing, and you'll go, excuse me, what are we trying to do here, and what's the next action to move that forward? And everybody else will go, oh, thank God, somebody finally got him to shut up, right? And they'll think that you're this brilliant person, and all you did was sit in here for a few minutes with me one day, and that's it, okay? All right. So, really powerful questions here. What's the outcome? What's the goal? What's the next action? I'm trying to really make sure that you got those, right? By the way, this stuff is not about being uptight and overly scheduled and overly planned. This stuff is totally about being lazy. Why? Because even a lazy person could go, cat needs food. Guess I'll write that down. And then some other time when I'm not lazy, I'll deal with it, right? And then at some point later, you look at that and go, cat needs food. Cat still needs food. I'll put that on the grocery store list. And then the cat won't die, right? Okay, this didn't take long. All right, not hard. Okay, so let's shift our focus to bigger picture planning because you're all business majors. Most of you, I assume, are business majors. Otherwise, I don't know why you would be here, but hey, whatever. Okay, so you're all business majors, and at some point in your life, you're going to have jobs where you're going to do lots of planning, and when you're an adult, you're going to have to do lots of planning. Trust me. Okay, so, and I'm not that much older than you, I just don't have a lot of hair, all right? My Bitmoji makes me sad. It's actually true. It really does. Okay, so, the real value of all this stuff is the ability to see your whole life, right? If you could take everything in here and put it on a piece of paper and look at it and go, that's all I have to do, you probably wouldn't feel that stressed out. You might actually be a little sad because you might go, my life is really not that interesting. That's all I have to do, right? Okay, so that's fine, right? The key here is that you now have both vertical and horizontal control of your life. I can see everything that I need to do in this plane, but I can also see everything I need to do here. And that's a cool feeling. You're captain and commander now, right? You're in control. And stress goes way down. So what if you have some specific project or activity or outcome that needs some specific planning? So here's an aha. You can more or less effectively think about something. You can more or less effectively think about something. If you focus in certain ways, you get certain results. So look back at the list that you made and find one or two things that could use a little more development and planning. And just keep those in the back of your mind as we talk for the next few minutes. Excuse me. So let's talk about focus. So 99% of what I'm talking about is on how to focus and how to choose where to put your focus. You see, there seems to be a direct correlation between change and your ability to focus on different things. In order to get different results, you need to change what you're thinking about to something different, right? I mean, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, right? So if you want something different, change your focus. Duh. All right. Any golfers in here? Golf is the best one for this. Okay, golfers, great. What happens, golfers, when you have different swing thoughts on the tee? Where were my golfers? You know what I'm talking about, right? You're on the tee. Oh, crap, this is that hole, right? What happens then? Exactly what you're concerned about, right? What happens when you stand up there and go, all right, this is that hole, but I got it, right? Yeah, and then it's better most of the time, right? All right, so athletes really understand this stuff, right? This whole concept stretches time. Think about this. Think about baseball, tennis, golf. Well, golf doesn't work for this one. Baseball, tennis, think sports like that where you have a very short period of time to react, right? What do great athletes, great baseball players, great tennis players do? Let's say they have 5 milliseconds to react to the ball that is coming toward them. Okay? The normal person, the average person, somebody who's not very good, would take like 1 or 2 of those milliseconds and say, oh, there's a ball coming, that looks about right, and then spend most of their time trying to actually hit it or return or whatever, right? Okay? Great athletes, they stretch that time. Instead of using 1 or 2 milliseconds to gather information, they use 4 milliseconds to gather information and 1 to react. That's what seeing your whole inventory of every commitment you've made in your life does for you. It stretches the time that you have to react so that you can say, that paper's not due today, and feel good about it. I'm giving you permission to procrastinate and be lazy. The problem is you procrastinate and are lazy and don't feel good about it, right? Better is if you can do it and feel good about it, right? That's the time management advice I want, okay? All right, good. So stretching time. So can you apply these same concepts to meetings, to people you work with, to your spouse or romantic partner, etc., etc.? You focus on different things all the time. By the way, do you know that you will fire off about 50,000 images into your brain today and every other day that you're alive? 50,000 images in your head. That's at least the people who talk to themselves, right? Anybody talk to yourself? Anybody answer yourself? I love the people that are sort of sit back smugly and they're like, I don't talk to myself. What are you talking about? Got it, right. Okay. So what's most of our self-talk like, though? Here's self-talk. I don't want to do this. He's a jerk. I don't like her. I got to go to the bathroom. I can't lose weight. It's hard to save money, etc. That's self-talk. That's normal self-talk. So if you fire off 50,000 images like that every day, what does that self-talk do to the way that you feel about yourself? Zoom. Right? It's a technical term. Okay? And you have self-talk about all the stuff you wrote down and all the stuff you didn't write down that's on your mind because you weren't following the directions and all the commitments in your life, right? And it's all this stuff that's, oh, it's easy for me to, or it's hard for me to, or this or that, are the images that impact the confidence that you have to actually do anything. Right? And this is why people don't get stuff done. I don't know how to do that. So we just throw our hands up. I'll just wait until the heat on the situation's hot enough to figure out how to do it, and then I'll just do it in a halfway way. Right? Sound familiar? So you ever have something to do that you can't see how to do, but you'd like to? Right? You ever have this vague sense that other people are getting something that you're not, even though you're better looking and way smarter than them? You know what I'm talking about? Like, how come they're getting that? Okay, right? Okay, ever hear yourself say something like, I don't see how I have time to? I assume you do, because many of you said you're stressed and you're here at a time management workshop. Of course, you have to be here, some of you. Okay, all right. So, what are you telling yourself about your ability to engage with this kind of stuff? That's the important question here, right? And you might be saying to yourself, you don't know how I live, you don't know who I work for, you don't know who I'm married to. Yeah, but it doesn't really matter, right? There's a whole lot of data out there because that we might not see because we're not aware of the data. So have you ever had a good idea? Anybody in here ever have a good idea about anything? Ever? Ever had a good idea? Cool. Could you have had that idea before you had it? Could you have hypothetically had the idea before you had it? Yeah. Right? Not because the universe changed, because you did something to make you aware of that good idea, right? You changed your focus. By the way, so why? Because this is the way your brain works, right? There's a study done that looks at why parents can be sound asleep and suddenly hear the baby cry in the next room and wake up. See, there's some subconscious part of your brain that's conscious of everything around you, and it wakes up the unconscious part, or wakes up the conscious part when there's new information that tells it that it should pay attention. So the part of the brain that's responsible for this is something that's called the reticular function. And its job is to activate conscious awareness. There's all kinds of data available to you in this room right now. Right? But you've probably not even noticed it. Did you notice the hum of the lights? Maybe. Maybe when you first came in here. But your brain said, oh, that's not important information. Put a filter in place and now you're ignoring it. Right? Now you're paying attention to it. Because I pointed it out. Right? This has something to do with how we focus and concentrate. It probably has some stuff to do with ADD and those kinds of things. I'm not really an expert on this, but I am an end user, right? I mean, I have a brain somewhere in here, I think. Okay? All right, so there's all kinds of data in here, right? There's a male to female ratio in this room, all right? There's a number of people that are wearing glasses. You probably never thought about any of these things, but now you're looking around trying to figure them out, right? And of course, you're also wondering why nobody else noticed those things. Many times we notice things, but we don't notice that we're paying attention to them. So start paying attention to those things, right? And what those things might mean to you. So focus is often about identification. So how many people in here, one more time, identify with some type of sport? You don't have to play it, just identify with it. I really love that sport. Okay? All right, good. You'll automatically notice that sport miles away. But people who don't play that sport, they never notice it. Oh, there's tennis courts there. Huh, who knew? All right? Ever heard your name mentioned across a crowded room? Yes? Good. Why? Some unconscious part of your brain identifies that sound and alerts you to it. Ever been driving and get hungry? What do you start to notice? Golden arches 3 miles down the road, right? Okay? Food and sources thereof. If this is true, and you want to see something that you haven't seen, maybe you just need to change the channel. All right, good, we got time for this. Okay, so let's see here. All right, so I want everybody to look around the room, okay? And I want you to find a source of the color white, like in clothing or bags or things. Okay? Source of the color white, okay? Find another source of the color white. Find another one. One more. All right, I want everybody to close your eyes. I'm calling out the cheaters. I'm not going to throw anything at you, I promise. Close your eyes. All right. I'm checking for cheaters. It's a big room. Okay, good. Looks good. All right, keep your eyes closed. And with your eyes closed, I want you to raise your hand if you think that the color red makes up more than 50% of the color in this room. Raise your hand if red makes up more than 50% of the color. Keep your eyes closed. Keep your hand up. Okay, good. Open your eyes, keep your hand up, look around. Okay, so red is not 50% of the color in this room. No. Okay, good. So most of you got it right. The rest of you, you might check on your grade in Mulvaney's class. Okay, good. All right. So, where was red when you were looking for white? Were the people wearing red still wearing red then? But you weren't looking for red, right? You were looking for white. See how I tricked you? How many people are walking around in organizations, in classes, in all kinds of stuff everywhere, whining about how there's no red in their life, but all they're looking for is white? You see my point? It's all about change and focus. How many people in here wake up before your alarm? Ooh, got a lot of overachievers in here. That's the reticular function. How many people in here need 2 alarms at least? Yeah. Do you know that your reticular function part of your brain will wake you up enough after the first one so that you'll wake up for the second one? Yeah, right. Every day, by the way. Okay? All right, so 3 takeaways from this. First, you don't need any more creativity or intelligence than you're born with. It's all about where you apply it. You don't need to be smarter or better looking or more creative. You just need to apply the gifts that you have in places that actually make sense. I'll prove this. Anybody ever been clearly confused? The answer is no. Your brain's never unclear. If you focus on confused, your brain will give you confused. The really confused people don't know they're confused, right? You know these people. You know, sort of dumb and happy people that work in organizations all over the world. All right. Second, you won't see how, this is a good one, you won't see how to do something until you see yourself doing it. You won't see how to do something until you see yourself doing it. Look, think about this. You don't plan all the muscle movements to catch a ball or walk or chew gum or talk to people. You don't plan how to get home, right? Unless this is the first time you've ever come to Lamar, right? You don't plan how to get home. You just see yourself at home and then remove everything through a process of continuous improvement until the reality matches the picture in your head of you at home, right? This is how you get home and go, how did I get here? Ever had that experience? The next time you do, can you let me know so I'm not out driving with you? Okay. All right, good. Third thing, if this is true, what should your first thoughts about any action you're going to take be? What should be the first thing you think? Wild success. Right? What would wild success look like? If you won't see how to do something until you see yourself doing it, then the most motivational thing you can give yourself is a picture of you being wildly successful. Cool, right? Now be careful, because when you start talking about wild success, you will awaken a member of your inner committee, whose name is Mr. Yeah, but. Yes, right? Yeah, but. Right? Mr. Yeah, but is really important, because he'll poke holes in all your stuff before other people do, but he's not the person that should be the chair of the committee, just to be clear, okay? All right, now be careful here. The line between this and crazy is thin, okay? High performers know that vision and imagery is part of good training. Crazy people just imagine stuff and think it's true, okay? So be careful here. All right, so how does this impact on your life? This is where like brainstorming and things like that comes in, right? And there's lots of ways to do brainstorming, but the key here is you have to come up with ideas and not evaluate them, just generate them, right? See, the problem is most people make a list. Now I know you're going, wait a second, you said that making a list was good earlier. Yes, but you got to make lists later, right? Lists don't come early in the process. First you have to have visions and dreams and things like that, okay? Good. Why? Because lists tend to prioritize us. And when we prioritize things and get too linear too fast, we have what we call the whoops factor, right? Dodger Stadium in LA, built without water fountains. Whoops. Citibank building on the east side of New York, Upper East Side of New York, that was modeled after that sloping glass roof building in Houston, right? Whoops. What happens? Any environmental conditions different in New York than Houston? Yep. Yeah, snows, right? What happens when you pack snow on top of a sloped roof building and then all of a sudden it warms up? Avalanche. Guess what? People walk everywhere in New York, right? Okay, so they had to retrofit this really expensive heating system into the roof. Whoops happens because you get too linear too soon. You make a list too soon. All right? So one of the best ways to come up with ideas is to do something like a mind map, right? Where you write a word in the center and then do little things off the side. Let's do a quick mind map. Mind maps are complicated if you don't have paper. How many people actually do have paper? It would take more time for you to get paper out than it is to do this. All right, never mind. Forget the activity. All right, don't worry about it. Okay, good. So, mind maps, brainstorming, the whole idea, again, is to separate the generating of ideas from the evaluating of ideas. Ideas are available to you all over the place right now. The only limitation is your ability to tune into the channel where those ideas are. Okay, but brainstorming, coming up with ideas, is not the be-all, end-all. There's a whole process to planning here, right? And it's really a natural process. It's called the natural planning model because it's based on what your brain does when it plans stuff. By the way, your brain is the best planner in the world, right? And this is how you find a good model for things. You find whoever the best is and you go you copy, model from them, right? Just be sure you cite your sources. Okay, good. All right, so you're planning machines. Everybody in here, you plan what to wear, where to sit, what to eat, what to say. And if I asked you to stop planning, you'd probably plan how to do that too. Okay? And you've been planning since you've been conscious, and the brain goes through the simple 5-step model. So let's have a simple example here. Let's say you might want to go out to dinner tonight. What would even trigger a thought for you to maybe want to go out to dinner? Hungry. You're hungry. What else?
You don't have anything at the house.
You don't have anything at the house. What else? You have a lot of money to spend. What else? A date. What else? How about a business dinner? Right? Got all kinds of reasons that we could go out to eat, right? Make sense? Good. If you have a real intention, you will start planning. If you want the world to be different, you will start planning. So it starts with real intention of something that's not yet true, meaning it starts with purpose and principles. Right? Goals, objectives, outcomes. What are we trying to do? The principles is the rules part. Values, right? Now, you don't think a lot about values in your life. You think within your values, right? For example, most of you in here would probably not consider picking up dead things off the side of the road to eat for dinner tonight, right? You go to Lamar, not A&M. We all understand this concept, right? All right, good. So, the first two things every time, what are we doing, purpose, and how will we play, principles. So then, are your next thoughts things like Roman numeral 1, capital B, number 2, lowercase c? Or are they things like, margaritas and fajitas sound good. Italian food sounds good. Which one? The second one or the Roman numeral 1 one? The second one, right? Good. Okay, so you basically create a scenario about what an interesting or successful or fun or good dinner would be like, right? So vision. So the second step is always vision. So now we have purpose and principles and vision. After that's clear, then we're going to start to come up with all kinds of ideas, right? This is brainstorming. It's how part A. It's generating ideas. There's a part B. Hang on. All right? So what do we do with how part A? We ask questions like, where should we go? What time should we go? What should we wear? Right? Who's going to go with us? Who's paying? Which ties to who's going to go with us, right? If you can find someone that will buy your dinner, you should always go with them, right? Okay, good. Assuming you know them, right? Don't go eat with strangers. Okay, so the brain then says, wait a second, we're not there yet, right? The brain sees the vision and sees that it's not reality and starts to fill in the details between here and there. Now, you're not going to make a mind map to go eat Mexican food, right? But you are going to go through the whole process of thinking about these things. It's a point at where many people say, this is too much work, let's just eat at home, right? Are you kidding? Your brain's going to do this all day, every day. It doesn't take long either. Once that's out of your head, what's your brain normally going to do? What's the next question you're going to ask once you clarify where are we going, what are we going to eat with who, what time, all that kind of stuff? Your brain's going to say, what do we have to do first? What's the most important? This is where you get organized and businesslike and make lists and things like that. All right? If you're going to go out to dinner, you better get organized. You don't just sort of flop around and hope the dinner shows up, right? That doesn't work. Okay, so this is where you start to prioritize. You think about what to do first, right? Next action kind of organization. Sound familiar? Okay. This is where you evaluate ideas that you generated earlier. This is how part B. This is where you ask questions like, who needs to attend the meeting? What's the purpose of the meeting? See? You have to have clarified all those other things first before you can answer the how questions. If two people can't agree on how to do something, the problem usually isn't at the how level. It's usually up at the purpose level. So you rarely solve these problems at the how level. You ever see couples on vacation who look like they need a vacation from their vacation? You know when they should have noticed that? When they were packing. Purpose and vision drive what you pack, right? She's packing bathing suits and trashy beach novels. He's packing golf clubs and hiking boots. Excuse me, dear, what's the purpose of this vacation? Right? Okay. So you don't always have to be at purpose, but you got to go there quickly. And what's the fifth and final step? The last thing you would do after you've come up with purpose, vision, brainstorming, and organized it all? Execute. Did somebody say execute? Fantastic. Execute. Do it. Next action. Reallocation of physical resources. Take your fat butt and go to a Mexican restaurant, right? Okay, sorry, that was just a joke. All right, and that's how you get a fajita. That's the natural model, right? That's the natural planning model. Good. So, last thing. It's not a question of if you'll ask this stuff, but when. You will get there. You will ask the purpose questions because you have to. It's the only way to plan something effectively. All right? Good. You see the value here? Good? Okay. I'll tell you that I often think, I don't need to do that, and then I do it and I feel so much better. The model's great because it deals with both contraction and expansion. If you need to get more granular and linear, go down to the action level. If you need to get more clarity, go up to the purpose level. Works every time. So cool. If you don't like the model, don't blame me. Blame whoever designed your brain. All right, last thing. Quote from a church in Sussex, England, from the 18th century. A vision without a task is but a dream. A task without a vision is drudgery. A vision and a task is the hope of the world. That's how you get things done, right? Define what done looks like. Define what done is and what doing looks like. Good? Good. Questions, comments, concerns? Large checks for me? Good. All right. See you. Have a good afternoon.